idea the amount of ignorant mess we're about to get into right now.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make.
Hello and welcome to a brand new preview episode for Black on Black Cinema. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Micah.
Hey.
All right, guys, we're back. This is a preview for episode 188, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. This is the newly released, as of Friday, film. The logline here is tensions rise when trailblazing blues singer Ma Rainey and her band gather at a recording studio in Chicago in 1927. This is unfortunately Chadwick Boseman's last film. This will be newly released on Netflix. Obviously, we haven't seen it because by the time we're recording this, it hasn't been released yet. I'm kind of bummed to watch it. Just to see him go at it one last time. But obviously we can watch his movies over and over again, but it's a real shame. So
yeah, it's bittersweet, right? Like,
right.
The movie looks good, but I wonder how that's going to affect my opinion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's starring Viola Davis, for God's sake. She's amazing in everything. Incidentally, this is based on work by August Wilson as well. This is from there was a 10-picture deal that was cut, that Denzel Washington cut with other people, with Netflix. So, I'm sure, I mean, considering August Wilson's work, I'm sure this is going to be stellar. But it should be interesting to see, like, will we be able to, discern, take away like the quality of the movie versus, sort of our bittersweet viewpoint of his career and of his death. But we will be fair. But look, Chadwick Boseman is a great actor, like he was. His last film was The Five Bloods. I mean, it was nothing more than a glorified cameo, and it wasn't the strongest thing he had ever done, certainly not, but he was also like really in the midst of it. So, it'll be interesting to see if he's affected here as well. So, but we shall see. So Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, look for that, full review next week. Topic this week, the random topic this week is an interesting one. I don't know much about the background of this story as far as like people being expelled from school over it and all this other stuff. That part isn't even relevant. But there was a whole story that came out recently about a woman who like really had a problem with Fences, the play, because her son, I guess, was forced to read it. Again, it's an August Wilson play. Forced to read it in school, and she's complaining about it. And she kind of wrote this little diatribe on, I guess, Facebook. And Mike and I wanted to talk about sort of the core of what she's saying. Not so much about her or anything like that, or again, the surrounding situation. That's irrelevant, but just the viewpoint. Cause it's an interesting one. She's Black, by the way. So I'll read some of this to give you guys an idea of her thought process. Says, quote, "I'm wondering what the educational value in the play is in the play Fences. I remember it as a play with nothing but adult content that I would not approve of for a ninth grader. A dysfunctional marriage, family with various levels of verbal and physical abuse, and a husband who regularly disrespects and cheats on his wife, ultimately creating a child. This book is not only inappropriate for the age group to which is being assigned, addressing heavy topics which they have yet to be exposed, but it perpetuates the exact message of the Black family dysfunction that does nothing but serve to paint a negative picture about Black families and Black men especially. It's completely unacceptable. It was my hope that, I guess, the school would stop promoting these negative stereotypes about Black families. The main character in the play is an alcoholic who mistreats his children, his wife, his friends, and it does not even have a hopeful or happy ending." And that's pretty much it. And then she kind of goes into about the school. So I guess my thought is she right? Is that all Fences is? Just a just showing a dysfunctional black family and has nothing else to say. To me, that is not true. I think it feels really surface.
That is a very, very surface level critique on a topic that, quite frankly, you can take, if you take skin color out of it, I don't think she would necessarily have as much of a problem.
I think that's largely true. Yeah.
If this was a story about, like, white people, and it was in the 30s, this exact same story, but like in the 30s, when it made a little more sense for white people of that time to be in the situation that Troy is in the 50s.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like, and I don't know this woman, but I feel like she wouldn't necessarily have too much of a problem with it. But how old are you in ninth grade? 14, 15 years old?
Yeah.
Kids nowadays have to live with stuff like this.
Yeah.
And
not just nowadays, even back then.
Yeah. Apparently not. And it is a way to, she mentions that there was, kids aren't exposed to this stuff. Well, this is how you expose stuff like this to them, through school, through a controlled environment where you can talk about things like this. Sometimes it's easier to talk about stuff like this at school than it is in your home.
Right. I guess she prefers that he learn about dysfunctional marriages and cheating personally.
Yeah, through right, like on the job training.
Right, like your father's a piece of shit, and I'm glad you didn't learn about this in that play in school. Like, okay, thanks.
From that very incredibly famous playwright. That's another thing. We don't get a lot of black playwrights, stories told by black playwrights taught to us.
No, not at all.
What did we read growing up? Of Mice and Men, Wuthering Heights, and Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And then we'll throw in an Ellison book. Pick one.
Yeah.
But I think it's, look, I'm not going to critique how this woman feels. That's on her. I just don't necessarily agree with her take on the subject.
Well, it feels like a very white gaze perspective, as somebody in our I think it was Sherry in our fan group pointed out, and which is odd because the film doesn't even have white people in it. Like, it's not a film about, like, there is no white gaze in the film, right? Like, when people talk about critiquing movies, or they talk about, like, when you're talking to people about movies and they're like, well, that movie looked dumb. And then they give, like, basically a blank sort of emotionless synopsis of the movie. And you go, see, that's stupid. Like, yeah, because you're reducing it to nothing, right? Like, by saying, well, it's just about a person who disrespects his wife. Like, you're just reducing it to nothing. It's actually also about, having, strained relationships with fathers and generational trauma and things like that. Like, how that trauma is passed from person to person, in particular, this case, black people to black people. Like, those things matter. And, like, there's a lot there in that. Like, just maybe the play is not for you. Maybe watch the movie. I don't know. Like, turn your phone off and watch the movie. There's a lot in that movie. It's amazing. So, and in the play, obviously. So that's crazy to me.
If anything, I would want my son to watch this, because it is a story about the downward spiral that a man goes through, right? Like the average man has big dreams and big aspirations, and for myriad reasons, they can't achieve them. And that's what makes us bitter. And that's what makes us the angry black man. And that's what makes us, that. And then we get violent, the label of violent thrown on us. And it is, I mean, I hate to use the cliche, it's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And if you're bitter enough, you project that out into the world, and but you need to understand that, right? Like the play is trying to get you to understand it. It's a tragedy.
Yes.
It's a modern, it's a more modern tragedy.
It's a more modern tragedy
than what, like we learned Shakespeare. First of all, Shakespeare, I'm not going to shit on Shakespeare, right?
Don't you do that?
But it's not. But it's like big budget playwriting for back in those times.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's salacious.
It's look, William Shakespeare. I'm a Shakespeare fan, but oh God, I'm gonna get so much shit for that saying that out loud. William Shakespeare is basically the Michael Bay of playwrights of his time. He was.
It is.
And look, everybody likes a good Bad Boys movie, man. Like they do.
Right.
They do. It's fun.
What is Romeo and Juliet but a fucking M. Night Shyamalan romance?
Yeah.
Where the twist is, she took it, but she wasn't really dead. But he took it and he died. What a twist.
I would argue that not since the last Carl Weber movie we did has a twist been so greatly portrayed. God, that guy needs to put out more movies. Yeah, I mean they're just big budget playwright,
and we are forced to read about them, right? Like we are forced to, and I won't say forced. You should be exposed to that stuff.
Look, if you don't like Macbeth, something wrong with you.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you. Right?
Macbeth is a great fucking story. It just is. It just is. Like, and I understand people not wanting to read Shakespeare. That part I totally get. But like, just find an interpretation, like a modern movie or something. Like, it's awesome. It's great.
Right.
It's super good.
So, and my thing is, August Wilson is an excellent playwright. He's one of the greats, and we need to be exposed to, kids need to be exposed to more than just Emily Bronte, William Shakespeare, John Steinbeck. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and look, I think there is, I get her point about sort of the negative depiction of the black family, right? And that dysfunction. I get it. But I've never been personally, I've never had an issue in showing dysfunction in movies of people, because I think you do people generally a disservice by making them perfect. Like she go, oh, well, there's no happy ending. Yeah, I'm not 5. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I watch foreign films. Like, a lot of that shit just ends on like, sorry, bro. Like, it is what it is. Because life is like that. Like, bad shit sometimes happens, and you just like, all right, well, I guess tomorrow's Thursday. Like, what the fuck can I do? So this idea of wanting only happy-go-lucky things and showing, like, what story would she want her 9-year or ninth grade son to read that is, like, largely available, that's about black families, that's not cheesy surface nonsense, that's getting into something that has a happy ending, there's no bad characters, there's no negative stereotypes. They don't exist. They don't exist. And that's not because of black people. Look at all of the other plays that you've mentioned or other, prominent stories in that age group. Native Son, right? We read that in fucking high school. I know we did because you and I went to the same school, right? We read Native Son. That's fucked up. Because that story is fucked up. We did the movie, right? Which was not as great. But, like, all of those characters are flawed. White and black, right? Like, the white chick comes home, she's, like, drunk and, like, all, like, loosey-goosey and, like, acting crazy. Like, she's a loser. She ends up dead, right? The black kid he spirals out of control, trying to cover up this death. I mean, what's more fucked up than Of Mice and Men?
Right.
Like, yo, right, it's a dude who's not neurotypical hanging out with like us, like another like huckster, basically. Them trying to make $1, and his buddy ends up killing a woman. And he has to go
put him down.
Yeah, look over there, boom, and shoot him in the back of the head. Are you complaining about that? Because I read that book in 9th grade, going into 9th grade. So why? I think it's the same thing that I said to you on an episode of the Nerdpocalypse last week. I think sometimes we as people of color are so much harder on us that we don't want to allow us to reach certain levels. Like, it's really weird to me, right? It's like you won't say anything about a John Steinbeck book, but an August Wilson play, well, fuck that. We need that one gone. Well, what about like you were saying before we came on air, like, what about Adventures of Tom Sawyer?
Yeah, man.
You never mention these things. Why do you have such either a blind spot or see the validity in white stories of equally or worse situations, but you give no quarter to black stories like that? It's weird.
I think it's because in our history is full of nothing, but not nothing. Our history is full of a lot of tragedy.
Yes,
and
of course.
Sometimes people don't want to see it. I get that.
I understand.
Like,
sure.
I 100% understand that. But you got to see it at some point, right?
You can't walk around with your head in the clouds.
You can't shield your child away from it, right? Like, and I wrestle with it. I wrestle with the fact that my son, somebody's going to call my son a nigger. And, I'm going to have to tell him, like,
it's going to be me. I like to break him in before he gets out there.
And it's a conversation that we're going to have.
Of course.
And I'm not prepared for it.
You think I want to tell my daughter?
You
think I want to tell my daughter she's a zebra? I don't want to have to say that to her in George Jefferson style. But yeah, no, I mean, but these are like, what's weird to me is like, okay, your kid is like 14 or 15 years old at this point, or maybe 13, 14. If you feel this way about fences, what sort of weird sheltered life does this kid have now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're like, yo, fences is too far gone. Like, saying blast a hole into forever is too much for my ninth grade son. Then what has he not seen? Will you ever show him 12 Years a Slave? It's a pretty important story. We teach him about Harriet Tubman. Pretty important. Like, where is the line? Do you only go with modern things because you can make sure they're happy-go-lucky? Like, our history isn't happy-go-lucky. Like, it just isn't. Like, that level of tragedy that has happened to us, while it is hard, it is what's made us us. Like, we're not just naturally creative or naturally, like, trendsetters and all this other stuff. Like, people think, oh, it's in our DNA. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's because we have had to fight tooth and nail for everything. And because we, as Jay-Z would say, pressure bust pipes, right? Like, that idea of putting pressure on people causes people to either break or rise to the occasion. Like, it just does. White people don't have to rise to the occasion. They just don't. They don't. They gotta learn a new dance. It's like, my credit score's fine. Fuck it, right? Like, they don't have to be the best at basketball because they have other opportunities.
Right, because they own the team.
Right. They don't have to be, you don't have to have a white Michael Jordan because you could be like, oh, I'll just be an accountant and do it's perfectly fine. Right? Like, I'll do okay. But some kid who doesn't have any opportunities and the basketball is his only opportunity, he got to fight hard. He got to try harder. Then he's got to do twice as much to get half as much. Right? So the idea of why we are the way we are and why we, set trends and do all of these things and move the needle in those ways is because we are forced to. I wish we weren't. I wish we weren't. I wish there was a white Michael Jordan so there could be a million black doctors, right? Like, I wish it was. I wouldn't give a fuck. I trade it in a heartbeat. But that's not the world we live in. And trying to raise your kid in a fiction, all he's going to do is run smack first into reality at some point. And it's going to be worse for him. Look, I get it. You want to keep your kid as sheltered as humanly possible, but like, yo, he's like 14. Yeah, at some point, he's getting ready to go to college soon. Wake up.
Yo, you're in high school. That's the Lord of the Flies era of your life.
Right.
Like, you about to be bombarded with a bunch of stuff, man. And yeah, I don't like the idea of sanitizing art.
I also agree with that.
You know, art it's supposed to, good art should be thought provoking. Even if it's like, I don't like this.
Yeah, you're supposed to generate an emotion.
Yeah. And what a great way to, like, it's a great icebreaker, especially for stuff like this, right? Like, she mentions all the stereotypes that Troy has. Well, then you can have a conversation about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And parents are scared to talk to their kids. And I don't know why.
Because I think some people, I mean, obviously we're going to run into this ourselves, but I think some people are afraid that they are going to show their own vulnerabilities. And, you know, some people are just desperate to keep a perfect view to their kids. You're not going to do that. Your kids are going to know you're not as good at math, or you don't read so good, or you have some viewpoints that they don't agree with. Like, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. That superhero complex, let it go. Just do the best you can. But yeah, I like, look, I'm not looking forward to having a conversation with my daughter about sex, but it is what it is. Like, you have to.
Yeah.
You just have to. Like, while I don't want my daughter to marry somebody like Troy, you better tell them about that person. Right. Let them know. Right. Because they're going to end up marrying somebody, and then you'll be like, damn, I should watch that play.
Right. Damn, we could have really watched it. If I'd have just watched this Denzel Washington movie.
Yeah, I could have avoided all this shit.
Denzel Washington could have parented my child in only 2 hours.
Right. Be like, look, just sit down and watch this shit. Don't end up with a nigga like him. God damn. But you have to, at some point, you have to be able to deal with those things. And again, I get it. I 100% get it, but it's difficult. Like, it is difficult, but you have to do it. Like, you can't just avoid things.
Yeah. I mean, I know some people don't like, I know some people, they're not like exposed to enough stuff to see deeper meaning in things, but like, that play is more than just like, Troy's a nigga. And I don't want somebody to say like,
I don't like surface responses to movies like that. Yeah, that shit makes me mad. Like, it does. Like, that movie has a lot going for it, or the play, depending on which version you've seen of it. But like, you know, it's like, again, that movie's about generational trauma, dude. Like, you can't just ignore that to be like, it's about a guy who didn't make it in baseball. Like, all right, like, god damn, that's all you got out of it.
Now, another wrinkle in this story is that the school was a predominantly white school. And that's another reason why she didn't like the idea of this particular story with that particular character being told at that particular school.
Right.
Because let's assume that her son is the only black person in his class. Sure. Where that play is being taught. It could be a very awkward situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guess what? If that's true, we'll just take it and say it is. Your son's going to be the only black person in a lot of situations.
yeah, like
It is what it is.
You have to. It's a game that we have to play, and we shouldn't have to play it.
Do.
But we have to play it, and
yeah,
it's why we code switch. It's why we,
I feel like this woman is not giving her son the tools he's gonna need, man. Like, and I don't know this woman, man. I really don't. I'm just going off of this. Like, I'm just extrapolating out of this. But like, yeah, you're right. Like, you learn how to code switch because you know what the fuck is happening. If you don't know, if you don't understand that, you walk yourself right in. You walk yourself into corporate America, and you're gonna find some hard lessons real fast. You will. So, I don't know. Yeah. It's odd to me. It's just odd.
Yeah, and again, I hope it's not coming off like we are telling this woman, she's wrong or for having these feelings, or she's
do whatever you want.
A bad mother. I'm not saying that at all. You parent your child the way you want to parent your child. I'm just talking about this particular situation, and if I were in this particular situation, and
right,
I I find it interesting as all. And yeah, I simply have a difference of opinion with her, especially about this particular play, given that she has a son. Like, yeah, man. Like, there's so many ways to attack it, but yeah, I vehemently disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my feelings ultimately are you're going to have to get over the fact that your son is going to be treated different as a black man in America. You have to get over that. And not that you have to get over it as far as like, don't worry about it, ignore it, it's not a big deal. No, it's a big deal. And it's unfair. And it sucks. But it is what it is. And the only way that you get through it is by acknowledging that and giving that person the tools and the understanding to get through those things and then move forward. That's it. That's it. There's no magic to it. Or move. Or move. Like, that's it. I don't know. Like,
where you gonna move?
I don't know. I still live here.
Wakanda don't exist. So
you just keep flying around till you hit that magic zone, I guess. I don't know. But like, it's like, just give your kid the tools, man. And like, understanding dysfunction inside the black community is important, because it's important not, and this is why surface reviews and shit like that really tick me off. It's not about the dysfunction. It's about why the dysfunction exists. Like, there's a reason that the son at the end is like, nah, fuck my dad, because he went through some shit with his dad. So when somebody meets him and he's got this negative view, they're like, what the fuck's wrong with him? But there's all this extra stuff behind it. Denzel Washington's character explains all of the stuff that comes in his past that caused him to be the way he was. His dad was a fucking pedophile. Like, and he talks about that, right? Like, you have to understand, like, he's fucked up because of what he went through. And his son is fucked up because of what he went through from his father. And it's about breaking the cycle of that so you can move forward as your own man. But if you always pretend that it's not happening and you just let it roll, then it will continue to roll into the next generation. I don't know. Did no one watch? Was she just not paying attention when this play was on?
And that's not like a difficult, like, it's not a difficult read. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but it just amazes
me. This isn't
what,
Tenet, guys. It's not that hard.
it just amazes me what people focus on.
Or don't focus on.
Yeah.
Honestly. Amazing.
Yeah.
But again, that's not, like, I'm not shitting on this woman. Like, I'm not. I just, like you said, I just vehemently disagree with her viewpoint. That's okay. Like, we're allowed to disagree. Black people, we are not a monolith.
Yeah.
That's how it works. All right, I think that's it for the preview episode. So catch us next week for episode 188, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Again, that releases on Netflix on December the 18th. So check that out, and then we will be back to give that full review next week. All right, guys, we'll see ya.
See ya.
You're watching the Black on Black Cinema YouTube channel. Make sure you check out our full reviews of black movies, past and present. And every other week, we do a preview episode where we talk about a random topic that affects the black community.